people who have came close to dying, what were your last thoughts? OS. My sister had to see me drown. I felt pretty calm about it though. I was on my deathbed and I thought, man, I wish my mother was here. When I woke up in the ICU, she wasn't, nor did she care. Nothing, blacked out. But my thoughts before that was happening was something like I shouldn't have gone out today, body was going into shock and heart was slowing down really fast. I got knocked unconscious and blacked out from a car accident and it was nothing, like you said. Just darkness overwhelming me immediately. I woke up gasping for air and wondering how the police and ambulance knew the accident was going to happen. I had been out long enough for them to arrive and start rending to some of us, but I thought they were waiting for us. My heart stopped beating for 7 seconds while I was eating dinner in my hospital bed waiting to be discharged. I realized I was going to pass out and put my arm across my plate so I wouldn't fall face first into it. All I could think of was, this is gonna make a mess. Glad they took their time with the paperwork. Ended up walking out of there 7 days later with a pacemaker at the age of 46. Edit. Holy yes. Thanks for all the well wishes. I'm 57 and retired now. Still have AFib and can't do much of anything without becoming totally exhausted. Nothing seems to work. Now that I have the time, I don't have the energy to do much at all. Just gonna ride it out and call it a day. As I was getting the Heimlich, I remember thinking how embarrassing it would be to die at a Renaissance fair. Edit. It was the day before my 29th birthday, so I also remember being disappointed I wasn't going to make it to 30. Edits 2. Thank you all for the responses. It seems like choking at a Renaissance fair is actually pretty common. If anyone knows a cigar salesman that was working at Scarborough Fair 6 or so years ago, give him my thanks for saving me life. S. Wasn't the car that hit me white? As I'm looking down at a car underneath me. I'd been hit hard enough I bounced up over the car that hit me and had enough air time to clear the second one. Props to the driver of the third vehicle. He must have stood on the damn brakes the moment he saw me because he brought the cement truck to a stop before it got to me. Second time I was hit by a car as a pedestrian. I'm now much more careful crossing streets. Not that it's helped much, I seem to have a car magnet in my ass. I was in the process of being electrocuted, having been working all day atop a scissors lift. The electricians had left a 277 volt line live, and while I was standing and reaching while running the last low voltage run of the job, I contacted their line. I saw the white light at the end of the tunnel. All I knew was throbbing and 60 cycle noise and the white light. My last thought was, I wonder if I can tell my knees to unlock. Obviously they did, since I am here typing this. Severe electrical burns, still here living the life. That's it? As I looked at the surface of the water I couldn't reach. My throat feels weird, my gums are itchy and blackness like a deep sleep. Woke up a bit later, found out I was allergic to crab the hard way. God, why can't I breathe right now? Just wish I could breathe. Oh, I'm getting tired, anaphylactic shock each time. I almost died in a fiery explosion at my old job. My first thought was, I'm gonna look like such an idiot without eyebrows. Right, double quotation mark. What the fuck? OW. Son of a bitch. Ah fuck, dod run me over. Me being run over by a car while on my motorcycle. I had a guy turn in front of me at an unprotected green light. My last thoughts before impact were, frick, my bike is only 3 weeks old. About 5 minutes later, about 100 feet down the road where I landed, I got into it with the paramedics who wouldn't let me sit up to check on my bike. Eventually sat up far enough to see her ripped in two. Laid back down and shut the fuck up. Was run over by a bus last year. My thought when I went under the tires was, but it's a Wednesday. I thought about how I didn't buy enough pizzas from my favorite pizza place. It's pretty good, but thinking about pizza when you think you're dying is pretty depressing in retrospect. I should have cut that meatball in half. Hello, have you ever had a headache that was so bad? I mean, like call your parents and ask them if you were still on the healthcare plan? Even though you live in Canada and they live in the USA? Yes, I've had this pain. I felt as if my head was going to implode. I was half right. I had a brain clot. Then bleed. So a stroke and an aneurysm all at once. My last thought before I regained consciousness weeks later? I don't want to die in this ground level apartment. I can't believe this is how I die. Drunk, falling off a 30-foot cliff into about 2 feet of water at Lake Havasu, AZ on spring break. It just hurt really bad. Nearly was run over in a town square when a car decided to go through it, instead of around it, and went onto the sidewalk. First and only thing to come out of my mouth to my friend next to me before we dove out of the way, well that's not good. Was on a road trip with my best friend, middle of the night, middle of nowhere. He was watching a movie on a little DVD player, I was going about 90 miles per hour. As I'm passing a semi his blinkers come on, so I consider falling back to not get merged into, but I'm young and stupid so I keep on the gas to get out of his way. I'm almost past him when I start to fishtail. Black ice. Let off the gas, hold the wheel straight, and the car's simply no longer in my control. As the car starts to spin, I very calmly turn to my friend, look him in the eyes, and tell him in a conversational tone, make sure your seatbelt's fastened, we're about to crash. The signal on the semi was probably his hazards, in retrospect. We luckily just spun out and wound up in the ditch on the far side of the road facing the wrong way, across 4 lanes of traffic in the pitch dark. So lucky. Well. Frick. Car accident. Was in a pretty severe car crash in my mid-teens. We got boned by a big Ford van coming home from school one afternoon. I could have swore our light was green, but witnesses said my friend went though a red. I remember looking over and seeing the van and thinking I pretty much resigned immediately to what was about to happen. I was sitting in the front passenger seat holding onto the little handle above the door. The window blew out and I had hundreds of little cuts on my arm, neck and face. It looked like rats had been chewing at me and I had a couple bits of glass in my hand. The passenger side door crushed in far enough to hit me and left fabric imprint all down my side, completely knocked the wind out of me, and cracked 2 ribs. After I caught my breath I had to crawl out of the driver's side, my hand bleeding all over the place, but was so amped up on adrenaline I hardly noticed any pain. The next day I could hardly move, I was so sore. Almost my whole right side was bruised. It hurt to breathe too deeply. My friend's mom showed me pictures of the car. It was really surprising I got off as well as I did. Weirdly calmed. Mind went quiet. Everything slowed right the frick down. Afterwards though, mind screamed. FWIW car accident, 100 kph 270 degrees spin in front of an 18-wheeler, across 2 lanes, down the embankment and slid between 2 concrete drainage pipes. Could have been hit by the truck. Could have rolled. Could have hit the pipes, which would have crushed into me. I was stabbed in the neck by someone robbing my house. I totally thought I was going to die. I hate myself, but I begged the guy who stabbed me to stay because I didn't want to die alone. He said sorry and walked away. That freaking broke my heart. Thankfully he called 911 for me. I thought I was having a drug overdose. I just remember thinking how disappointed my mum was going to be with me. A little over 10 years ago I had the Wadawmaka heart attack. I spent the first day in the hospital with a balloon pump assisting my heart to help me stay alive until they could perform the surgery the next day. They told my wife that my chances of surviving were only about 20%. I had the priest in, family, the whole 9 yards. In the morning, as they wheeled me into the operating room, I was doing the Monty Python bit and get the machine that goes ping. In case the administrator comes by with the surgical nurse who was also a MP fan. The look on the surgeon's face was priceless, and I was chuckling as I went under. My last thoughts were we got this. The surgeon later told me that I was the only patient in his entire career that came into his operating room laughing, but that my attitude may have been a large factor in my survival. They will never find me. Almost drowned in Hawaii in a riptide and no one noticed. I was 10. Thankfully I was a very strong swimmer and managed to swim out of it, but I was quite a ways out. The beach was very narrow close in with rocks on each side, so I basically had to get pitted by a huge wave at the end to get through the last 20 yards. Crawled up on the beach, literally exhausted. Got yelled at for staying out too long. Edit, as everyone says, learn riptide and current safety. Don't fight it, and swim sideways if possible. Strongly consider PFDs if you are not a strong swimmer. That doubly applies in rivers, but that's for another day. Unfortunately I don't remember where this was. It was 1988 and I think it was a small hotel beach. Thanks for all the comments and upvotes. My first one over 250 upvotes. Edit 2. Please take your children as early as possible for swimming lessons. I learned when I was 3 or 4 and undoubtedly saved my own life several times by being a strong swimmer. I have something wrong with my health where medications are a hard fricking no for me. ODED on normal dose of albuterol. ODED on normal dose of promethazine. Some other fricked up occurrences I don't care to speak about. But anyway, when I OD'd on promethazine, my fever shot through the freaking roof, 105-106, and wouldn't go away. I was in and out of consciousness and my wife said I was talking in my sleep a lot. I legitimately, 100%, without a shred of doubt in my mind thought I was in the middle of a war between us, humans, and freaking elves. I was talking about how we had to split the house with them to prevent another war, etc. My breathing was fricked up, fever wouldn't go away, I couldn't get up, I couldn't actually sleep, nothing. So, my last thoughts were, basically, hopefully the elves are cool splitting the kitchen cause we need to eat still. Really fricked up time. I was gridlocked in traffic with a wildfire on both sides of my vehicle. I could even touch the window, it was that hot. Our cell tower was knocked out so I couldn't even tell my family and friends that weren't in the car that I love them. I sat there and I was oddly peaceful. There was nothing I could do. My whole family was sweating. My little brother was crying. I was 15 and I just sat there and accepted that my life was what it was and I didn't bother thinking about what I wished I had done differently or what I wanted to accomplish because I didn't matter. I was convinced I would die quietly with my family in a car. I couldn't think. I put my headphones in and played my favorite songs thinking maybe I could die to one of those. When traffic started moving again after a few hours I could barely stay awake. I remember the first time I showered after the fire. There was soot running down the drain and I just cried. Since then I started telling people I loved them. I decided to live for myself. I came out. I worked towards a future. I even sat at my first bonfire this year. It was horrible. I never got to have my own cat. I was 6 years old, in the hospital with mono and strep and being administered antibiotics that I was having a severe and violent allergic reaction to. Everything was slow and fading and honestly I don't know how I'm still alive. Luck, I guess. I got my cat though. Your shoe is untied. I said that to my dad before promptly falling down a 20-foot cliff into the underbrush. Broken arm, fractured skull, ruptured kidney. Woke up 2 weeks later to my dad saying thanks for letting him know his shoe was untied as he could have tripped. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe and leave a comment.